welcome to a new interview here in the Energy Bridge. Today we are in the office of Oekostrom in Vienna, and today we have the pleasure to have Maximilian Klöß, as you told me, the managing director of trading for Oekostrom. So thank you very much for having us here today and for having this interview.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to talk about interesting aspects here. Thank you.
Thank you, Maximilian. To start with, we always start with starting from the education, how you got into energy. Please tell us about your journey and getting to where you are right now.
Okay, so yeah, how do you get into the energy sector? Well, I studied industrial engineering and management at Technical University of Vienna, and there finishing my master, I got the opportunity to start as a researcher in the Institute of Energy Economics, where was working on research projects in the field, did some teaching on the field of energy economics, and that got me a bit from the engineering more into the economics in the special field of energy economics, which I found very fascinating. Did my PhD there, and with Professor Haas. Yeah.
Hello, Professor Haas.
Yeah, thank you. Big thank you to Professor Haas, who I owe a lot here. And then luckily, in 2012, I decided, okay, I switched from research to the energy industry. Got the chance to start at oekostrom, which back then was a very small player, but also a very interesting and promising company, because was, in my opinion, in the right field and a lot of growth and build-up work to do.
In 2012?
That was in 2012, end of 2012. So yeah, almost 13 years.
Wow.
I've been working here. I was always in the energy economics department there, responsible for the purchasing, trading, renewable sourcing, portfolio management. Like, we were just like a few people there doing pretty much everything what a utility has to cover. In 2015, we founded a trading subsidiary. So it's been 10 years ago. Like, the company I'm now managing director of has been active, and now I would say one of the three main pillars in the group. So the trading is covered by that. So we developed and got more and more professional, portfolio expanded. This is what brought me here.
Yeah, something that why we were interested to interview you, it's also, as a company, we made a bit of research, and it was born after the anti-nuclear movement in the end of the 90s. It's now the largest independent utility, 100% renewable. And we read that you have 3,000 shareholders. So how does that work?
Yeah. I mean, oekostrom, I would say, is a product of two things. So it's, like I said, a renewable, anti-nuclear renewable movement, plus a product of the liberalization that just started then. So there was a moment, a window of opportunity. First, you could found there was the chance to have an independent utility. So before that, in the 1990s and before that, it was all like public sector, big public-owned companies. And then you could actually do that, like found a supplier, build your own production assets. So there was also like the new production technologies, solar, wind, that weren't there in this form before. And this opened this window of opportunity. And I'd say it was a lucky moment that a group of people found the idea to found this company, shareholder company, build the first wind parks, found a supplier, get first customers, and get it going whenever no one else had saw this opportunity. So being the first mover back then, and that was, I think, a big thing. And this is our DNA until today.
Amazing.
And it started with from the very beginning that 100% renewable.
Yeah, that was always the idea, to prove, okay, it is possible to supply customers with 100% renewable electricity, and is still our mission.
Yeah, and you mentioned that you have 3 pillars, and you own the power plants. You also trade. So what are the pillars, and how does it work internally?
Exactly. So as you said, we have the production pillar with the production company that has like wind farms and PV farms in Austria and neighboring countries. So we have in Germany, Czech Republic, Slovakia. We own assets. Then we have sales. So we're supplying around 120,000 customers with renewable electricity in Austria. And in the middle, we have the trading subsidiary, who is responsible on the one hand for renewable sourcing from our production, but also from third party, a lot from third party. On the other hand, we're doing the purchasing for the sales portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
So we are actually the link to the market for the group, and have our own business. So by sourcing and reselling to other retailers in in Austria and neighboring countries. So this is our field. And by that, we are a fully integrated utility company covering all these things: sales, production, and in the middle, the trading.
Yeah, and as a business model, I suppose that you are thinking also in storage in the future?
Yeah, I mean, storage is definitely a very important link to integrate renewable assets. I mean, we're dealing with PV and wind mainly. It's fluctuating renewables. So the challenge will be how to integrate them. And storage and all kinds of flexibilities will be the next big challenge. So, I mean, the build-up of capacities of wind and PV was very fast, especially like accelerated massively the last years.
Mm-hmm.
And flexibility is lacking behind. So the next challenge will be to cover that, close the gap.
What is the capacity right now, currently with oekostrom production?
In oekostrom production, I think we roughly have 100 megawatt installed of wind and PV. This is only partly covering our own demand of our customers, and the rest of the energy needed is acquired from third parties. And this is why also our challenge in the trading is to find new suppliers. So we are talking to operators of hydropower plants, wind farms, solar plants all over Austria to source the electricity that we require to supply our customers.
You source the renewable part within Austria, or then?
We currently source within Austria. So this is our market at the moment. We're looking into other markets, but at the moment we're still only operating in Austria on the sourcing side and on the sales side, mm-hmm. Whereas on the production side, as said, we are also in other countries.
And one of the topics that also arises in the forums that we are organizing, it's flexibility and market integration. So in the flexibility side, you have this smart spun. So if you could tell us how does it work, or what is your idea?
Yeah, so Smart Spun is one of our products that aim on the topic of flexibilization in the power system. And in this case, it's flexibilization of demand. So we have the problem and that we have volatility of production, and that's also reflected into extreme price volatility. So depending whether there is a lot of renewable feed-in on a sunny day, or a lot of wind on on windy days, the prices fluctuate a lot. Yeah, and we also see now, as it's getting colder outside, we see during the day volatility. We see evening peaks of several hundreds of euros, and then we see in midday during midday like prices close to zero. And this is a big challenge to everyone, to all market players, and is a bit of shows a bit like the inefficiency that we have in the market, because we don't have in a flexible system these spreads would be used. But it shows there is not enough flexibility yet. And this brings us to smart spun. So we think our customers should also be incentivized to benefit from this spread. So just to avoid buying at peak price evening hours, and shifting demand to low price hours. And the problem is it is like difficult to do that manually, and this is when something like smart spun comes into play, where like an automated system controls your flexible loads. So we're talking about heat pumps, and vehicle charging, for instance, which is big demand. Also in the household would be like the biggest demand units, and they could be easily be flexibilized. And this is what we're addressing. So the customer shouldn't have to worry about it. It's just like something that automatically happens. And this is a solution that we offer for that. And we think that this is an important step for the integration. Or is it involve the consumer also?
Yeah, it's a bit related with, how do you call it? Demand control. Also, right? Like how to balance.
Exactly, yeah. So yeah, in economic terms, we have flexibility in the production, in the supply, but we have an inflexible and inelastic demand curve. And the next challenge will be to get an elastic demand curve. And this will be either by consumers to react, which smart spun is part of, but also, as you said earlier, storage is a key technology here. And this is going to be also, I think, should be the next big thing, getting more storage in the system.
One more thing that more and more getting important is independent players getting access to the market. What do you think of that?
Yeah, liberalization is a key element. I mean, I think this whole energy transition that we're experiencing that like now wouldn't be possible without the liberalization. Yeah, so only independent market participants actually did drive that development. Yeah, so would that be still a public sector? The technological learning in PV and wind would never have happened. Yeah, so I think it is very important to have these independent, privately owned, shareholder-owned companies here, because they drive development, they drive innovation, and this is what the last decades proved. And yeah, I mean, getting a bit into the political field, I feel in Austria it's a bit like shifting towards more public again, which is always a risk here. Like could slow down development.
And in this price volatility that you mentioned, which business model do you see are the more profitable?
Like, I mean, I think at the moment, like looking at the price curves, you see, like if you have something flexible and can do load shifting, it is extremely profitable right now. Especially like if you take the last years, it's still ongoing. Yeah. So in my opinion, like any type of flexibility is extremely promising right now. So the question is how it develops. Yeah. Because of course, the more flexibility you bring into the market, the less attractive the market gets. Because flexibility also flattens out the price curve.
Yeah.
And in theory, at some point, the price curve will be flat.
What I wanted to understand, like, about the whole balancing part, and you mentioned that that is getting more centralized again somehow?
No, it's just like we see that, I mean, we still have in the power system, in the energy sector, we have independent players and we have publicly owned players. Yeah. And they are like state-owned, federal state-owned. And so there is a political interest to like that these actors have a better playing field, let's put it like this. Yeah. Rather than, and this is kind of a bit in conflict with the idea of liberalization, have an even playing field. So
like pre-competition.
Yeah. So we see developments in the production fields that benefit publicly owned players. Yeah.
Okay.
And also we see, I think I would also say a bit like uncertain framework conditions. Yeah. So if you do an investment for 10, 20 years and you think the conditions are stable, and if regulation is changed and tariffs are imposed or changed, this affects massively your investment costs, because like a bank would say, listen, like we saw that they change the conditions every year, so financing costs would increase in this case, and this is a bit what we're facing. So extra taxes for high revenues are imposed, but I mean the opportunity to have higher revenues at some point in these 10 years, I calculated, is part of the business plan. And if I do an investment and the profitable times are taken out,
why to invest?
So this is a bit a problem. This is also at the end, investment gets more expensive, and less investment is going to be done, and transition is slowed down. And this is what we're facing.
Now that you touched that point about the current situation in Austria, there is a discussion of the new electrical law. How do you see it, or what have you heard from the utility side and generation side?
I mean, it's still in discussion. It's been in discussion for a long time. I mean, we talked about the topic of storage and flexibility. So there is the grid tariffs for these units. So it would be very beneficial for the power system if the grid tariffs would incentivize flexibility. And at the moment in the drafts, we know this is not the case. So it's been distinguished between the big storage units that we already have, the hydro ones, publicly owned, of course, and the new ones. So the new units should actually plan to have higher tariffs. It's not clear why, and this is definitely not incentivizing the flexibilization of the grid, which is a key to the transition, is a problem. And in general, stable framework conditions. So we're facing at the moment a lot of bureaucracy, in generally slowing down any project here. So projects take too long, in particularly wind projects, from the planning to the grid connection time. This has to be.
We interviewed Herbert Brandner from Wien Energy, and he was telling us about the 13 years that took for them to start a wind farm.
I imagine. It's just like it's taken way too long. And this is also, I mean, taken Austria, like Europe, as a place to have future industry. We need cheap energy. But cheap energy, to have cheap energy, you need capacity. And if you slow down the build-up of this capacity, you're not helping. You're not even helping the industry. And
are you catering any industry as well, or the 100,000 people that you said are all homeowners? Or
it's mainly homeowners and small businesses. So typically, industry, we're not supplying any industry yet. We will maybe in the future. We're still growing, and this could be possible. But at the moment, it's homeowners and small industry.
Seeing in the future, in order to decarbonize faster, from from your position as generator and utility, will we focus more into the grid upgrade or into distributed generation or other measure?
Well, I think it probably needs both, like, I mean, what we did so far, I must say, is we had a grid that was quite good. Yeah, it was, and we connected more and more. And until it got too much, and then we started strengthening the lines, like expanding the lines. So a lot is happening. But in general, the problem was expanding the capacity is still way faster than building big power lines. Yeah, so talking about long processes of getting projects from planning to realization, power lines are the worst. So they need decades. This has to be speed up, and it has to be both. So a renewable power system is a combination of a well interconnected grid with distributed generation. So you will always have the challenge of getting the energy somewhere, because taking Europe as a whole, there's always renewable energy somewhere, and it's going to be the chance that it is exactly where it's needed is very low. So you have to shift it somehow, and this is part of the concept.
So a lot of the time people think that trading is just reacting to the price volatility that is going on in the market. But how can it also trading desk, because you're managing it, that also support grid innovation or grid modernization somehow?
Yeah, I mean, I would say in trading you have very stiff competition. And I think competition is always a driver of innovation. So I would say every player in the trading field is always striving to have the newest technology in place to get an economic advantage against other players in the market. And thereby I would say we're using the most recent means we have available to have this economic advantage or this competitive advantage.
Yeah, and I can imagine that you used to trade a lot, maybe now not much, but what is the thing that you like the most of trading energy?
Well, it's an interesting. I mean, I come from the engineering field, and I think it is very interesting, these interconnections by the technical aspect, power being generated somewhere, to manifesting into contracts, to realizing, generating revenues, and back and forth, and this also decision making, risk. It's a very highly analytic system, and it's about it's cost benefit, risk patterns, and if you're an engineer into figures, it's fascinating. You get caught by it, and when you think about traders, everyone sees a gambler or something. I would say this is definitely not it. It's if you're good, you're just it's purely analytic. You analyze risk patterns, and this is how you derive your decisions, and that makes it also fascinating. I mean, we in the trading field, we have a lot of engineering profiles. We have industrial engineers like me, electrical engineers. We have physicists, mathematicians. This is often the pattern you have, and these kind of people get caught in this field, and definitely you have to like numbers.
Yeah, and in the year 2025, AI it's a big game changer. So how do you see the integration of AI into trading market?
Yeah, I mean, it has a very high potential. Well, power trading is very strongly linked to weather forecasting. Like in forecasts, it's also like reading patterns and deriving findings, how the weather is going to be in the next time unit. Yeah. And I mean, one aspect like of AI is very good at identifying patterns. And so I think there's a very wide field of applications you can use AI in. And I mean, so in this field, like forecasting, trading decisions, reading out patterns of huge data volumes, back to getting processes, streamlining processes, like things that had to be done manually. So the classical AI in workflow processes up to like pattern identification, data analysis. So it's a wide field. Yeah.
Just going back, one question that I wanted to ask about that Austria has from the energy bridge, we are very much focused also on the Eastern European side, and Austria has historical context with those countries, and it should be a role model for energy transition as well for such countries. So Austria had some support scheme for renewable energy, but do you see any lesson that other countries could learn from the support scheme that Austria has?
Yeah, I mean, Austria had its learnings from the past, and yeah, we're coming from like non-market based support schemes, simple feed-in tariffs, shifted to market premium models. I mean, what is definitely important is if you start today, if you design a support scheme, it has to be market driven. I mean, we see the challenges. Production has to be incentivized rather to feed in at times where it makes sense and not to feed in where it makes no sense at all. So this is important. And then yeah, I guess it's also incentivizing also, I think, the right technology that suits the demand. So I mean, we have the tendency, like I'd say maybe the PV extension was very rapid, let's put it this way, like maybe too rapid as to be properly integrated in the grid. I think also there learnings can be drawn. I mean, we see that wind is more suitable to the demand pattern, being more available in winter months. So there has to be like a good equilibrium between the technologies, and this should also be incentivized by the support scheme to have the right mix of technology in place.
Also, you mentioned that you're not sourcing currently. Oekostrom is not sourcing from other countries, but you're generating in other countries. And do you see more cross-border cooperation as such?
We are also at the moment looking into neighboring markets, whether to start sourcing there as well. So it's getting more and more integrated, I'd say. So we already, oekostrom is also having an office in Bratislava. So there we have, I would say, we're one step already there. And it would be interesting for us also to maybe have at some point also sales and trading in these countries. And in generally, yeah, we see, I think this is the way we're heading. You can't think with the energy transition in Europe, you can't think in nations by itself because it makes no sense. Austria is tiny still, and it will be necessary to think over the borders, because only this way it will work. As I said, like there will always be some renewable power somewhere in Europe, but there's moments definitely where we have almost close to zero renewables in a moment in Austria, and this is when the integration comes into place.
Yeah, and now maybe moving to the future, how you see it. There is also a discussion regarding that the more the people is generating their own energy. They are buying less from the grid. Thus, who is paying the grid at the end? Because the utilities are getting less. So you, from your position from generating and being a utility, how do you see what happened?
I think that grid tariffs should shift, and in my opinion will definitely shift to like a fixed fee if you're connected. Yeah, so the idea, the concept of the grid tariff being calculated on the kilowatt hour consumed, I can't work in a world where you substitute your grid consumption by your own production. Because I mean, if you take a household with a PV system compared with one without, so I mean the cost to maintain the grid is the same for both on a grid operator perspective.
Yeah.
If not, the PV house needs more grid cost, because it kind of goes in all directions. So it will end up being like this. Like at the moment, it's more and more like the ones that don't have a PV are paying the bill for the others. This can't be it, and that won't be it. And I think there's already developments in this direction. So this is definitely gonna come. As long as you're grid connected, you will have a fixed fee. And I mean, on the other hand, like this, it would be also interesting. You have that in other countries, like so you charge for peak consumption. You know, the higher like the peak is you create in the system by a load peak you generate by, I don't know, like charging your cars. Like this should also be reflected in your grid costs. So just like in order to incentivize the consumer to have a more like system-friendly consumption pattern.
Yeah, and also thinking in the future, V2G is coming, like to supply energy from the electric cars to the grid. Also, we spoke about AI in energy sector. Which other thing or other eruption you see in the market that can be a game changer in the future, in the next years?
Electric vehicles are definitely a big change, because like, I mean, a household that has an electric car is typically doubling its electricity consumption more or less, and having a big flexible load that could be a potential that could be tapped by vehicle to grid with the vehicle. So this is a big thing, like the diffusion of electric cars in the market. And then is the shift in the heat sector. We have a lot of heating from other systems, oil heatings, gas heatings, very common in Vienna. So the shifting of the heat demand to the electric sector will be a challenge, but also a chance because it's a potentially flexible load, and which we address with our smart spun solution. So this will be a big thing. Interestingly, we hit all the way this data center. So I mean the consumption of data processing. Yeah, I mean these data centers are obviously not so much here in our country or in Europe. Maybe they are somewhere else. But in the future, I mean, we will need them. They will be also part of our strategic independent. Yeah, so we can't have the data centers having somewhere else. So at some point they have to be here and they will be a consumer. And this will be factors to be considered. And I think a bit further, maybe also like flexibilization of demand. I mean, all our production processes are still like not oriented towards the power price. So they just produce when they always did. So, I mean, the concept of I produce when it's cheap because there is sun or wind or whatever this is not there to this extent yet. With something energy intensive industry is something that could also consider, like kind of try shifting demand and their demand and production time, therefore, to hours where electricity is cheap or seasons where electricity is cheap. And it is will create a lot of changes. I mean, we see it nowadays. So I mean, the difference between in terms of price between a winter months and summer months is increasing every year. It's kind of getting more extreme. So we have the price difference between seasons, and within a day, the price difference between evening peaks. So the volatility, and demand is not yet reacting to the extent it could and will have to at some state.
Are you somehow also talking about different stakeholders, like maybe district heating networks and the industrial heat pump? They could be using the
everything that has flexibility, like could produce on storage, like something you produce and can store, you can shift. Something that has to be fresh and delivered straight away, you have to do it when it's required. But there is definitely processes that can be shifted and will be shifted.
We try to stress the fact that we are 22% electrified in our consumption as I think global average. Europe is a bit more, but how do you see the electrification path and piece?
It will be a continuous growth of the share of electrification, because electricity provides the best energy carrier, if we call it like this, to decarbonize. Like take transport. Like with gasoline or diesel, you can decarbonize using liquid hydrocarbons like biodiesel or whatever, but only to some extent. Decarbonization can only be achieved with electric system, maybe hydrogen, but it's basically also electricity converted in another storage form. So it's about the decarbonization potential. So if we're aiming as a global society to 100% decarbonization in theory, or let's call it 80%, it only goes through electricity. It only works through electricity. Or hydrogen / electricity. It's a storage question.
Yeah.
My opinion. It's not a philosophical, it's just like at the end it's always electricity.
Yeah.
Just also oekostrom is one of its kind for just about 100% renewable that you have. But do you have competitors or like other such initiative and companies in Austria and around?
Yeah, I mean, Austria it's nowadays everyone tries to be 100% renewable, and it's just like if you're selling to households, it's almost a must-have. Yeah. I mean, historically in Austria, we have a lot of hydropower. We always had. Yeah, we have the Danube rivers, we have the mountains with storage units, everything. So, I mean, we look back into 1999 when we started. Already then, I think we were probably in Austria 80%, 70 to 80% renewable share. But there was this 30% to be covered, and now it's just the aim is to get that to zero, close to zero. It was a question of economic efficiency, but and selling to households, and you have to have in mind that the households is like roughly 30% of the electricity demand. And a household decision maker wants to have 100% renewable power supply, you can say. This is a must-have. There's different ways you can cover that. We do it a lot with the new renewables, just to prove, okay, we have sources that have been installed in the last years. It's the so-called new renewables. But with the hydropower plants we have in Austria, you can easily cover all the households. But the challenge will still be to get, as I said, demand increases. We have the electric vehicles, we have the heat sector. To cover all these, that won't work with our hydro plants. That they will need PV and wind, and this is when we come into play. And it will be a challenge still to have this 100% coverage in the next years.
So speaking about all the challenge that we have ahead. There are many new professionals getting into the market, into the sector, the energy sector. Would you have some advices for these new professionals just starting their journey?
Yeah, I mean, advice. It's just like I think it's a fascinating field. That's my perspective. It is a big project. Yeah, so we're in the midst of a big transition project. I mean, maybe in 50, 100 years when they look back and say, okay, this is a big achievement. Mm-hmm. So we definitely, I feel we're part of a big development, no matter where you are in this, because yeah, you have to be prepared. It's a fast developing market, field. So what you use, the tools you use now might be obsolete in a few years. So you have to be prepared to continuously adapt and continuously learn and use new methods, new technologies, remain flexible. And but it's definitely rewarding and challenging, and yeah, I think it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's fun. And something that you would like to share, like to for the community, that it's a chance to share.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so it's a statement. Yeah, I mean, it's just like, so the community is new future professionals. Be open-minded, be learning, be curious, and don't lose your idealism. There's gonna be tough resistances when you're going in business. It's hard, dry valleys to pass until you get up again and reach the peak. So, but it's gonna be rewarding, and it's a big program, and it's a big project, big challenge, and I can clearly recommend it.
And just closing on, going forward, do you have any goals for next 5 years that you think going forward for the sector within oekostrom that you would like to achieve?
I mean, we are in oekostrom, and for the next 5 years is definitely expanding our production capacity, getting more customers, accessing new trading markets. As I said, we're currently in Austria. We want to be also in neighboring countries. This is for us and for the system. I hope that we have a general understanding. I think when it comes to the future energy system, renewables is just the best. It's just the best way. It's just like, this is not an ideological question. Also, if you just take the pure technical or economic perspective on it, it's just the most efficient way to supply the future energy we need for the new processes, data processing, mobility, heat. Mm-hmm. The renewable way this is the way to go, and I hope we will have a common understanding in Europe, also in the world. And in my opinion, maybe this one, I think, don't believe to the nuclear promise. Yeah. It is misleading, and it has hidden costs that no one tells you about, that future generations will have to bear. And the only responsible way and the least cost way is renewable power, and that's what we stand for.
So from an idealistic company that started with a purpose, and he has stood with the principles. Thank you very much for this conversation. We are looking forward to know more about you in the future, how it's evolving everything.
Yeah, thank you for the talk. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you to the community for watching the interview until the end, and stay tuned for the next episode. Bye.